welcome to the Football Gameplan College Football Tailgate Show. I am David Hashagen. I am joined, as always, by the czar of the playbook, Emery Hunt. Most of the bowls have come and gone, but there are still some under-the-radar games to pay attention to this weekend, and we are rapidly approaching championship weekend in Division I with both the FCS and FBS seasons coming to a close. We will preview both of those games coming up later on in this half hour. Emery, I'm going to make a bold prediction here, though. I believe the Tigers win the College Football Playoff National Championship game.
That is a classic David Hashagen joke. That is a terrific Hashagen joke. I knew that was coming.
You're saying that's not a hot take?
That's not a hot take.
That's not a hot take?
You're actually right on that one. A Tiger will win. Now, is it a Bengal tiger or is it a tiger from Low Country? I learned that.
Exactly. You got to learn the local. But here's the thing. They're going to have to watch until the end of the show to know our predictions on this game. So stay tuned in until the end of this, folks. But with every season since the College Football Playoff was established, there always comes the debate. Did the four best teams make the postseason? Should more teams get involved? Should less teams get involved? And it was clear this year that 3 of the 4 teams were more than deserving of getting into the playoffs this season. But I want to know your thoughts about the whole expansion issue. Everybody seems to want it, it's 6-game team playoff, an 8-team playoff. Some just want to go back to 2 teams and just say 1 versus 2 because there's no controversy there. What are your thoughts on it? Because it's an interesting topic that I think will be discussed and become reality in a very short time.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this. I can see all sides of the argument. Let's attack one. Let's go for more teams, right? But if you're going to expand the playoffs, I remember when college football seasons were either 10 or 11 games max, 12 being the bowl game. So you had 10 to 12 game seasons. Right now, you got teams that are 15-0. They're getting ready for the NFL playoffs with that record. So if they go back to, let's say, a 10 or 11 game max season, no conference championship game, and you expand the playoffs to include, let's say, 8 teams where you have your 5 Power 5 conferences and 3 at-large bid, 1 or 2 spots held for your best group of 5 team, I'm all for that. But minimize the regular season because you don't want college athletes, student athletes, unprofessionals playing a professional season. We've seen this work at the FCS level, Division II, D3, NAIA. We've seen it at all college levels. It can work at the FBS level. You just have to reduce the number of games. Now, for not expanding the playoffs, I completely get it because you look at how uncompetitive a lot of games are. And you talk about this weekend. Imagine if this was Clemson versus Ohio State for the right to play LSU. No one would have an issue with that. People may say, hey, add Georgia in the mix because look at how bad Oklahoma played against LSU. Well, let's look at how bad Georgia played against LSU in the SEC title game.
Or Utah. See how a Pac-12 team would do, but at the same time, they don't play that kind of defense.
Exactly. And we saw what happened. And not to say that was different times, different team.
Right.
The first playoff game, we saw Washington, who was really good, go up against the best team that year, which was Alabama, and they got destroyed. Normally, the best team will destroy you. That's just how it works. So it's not an indictment on the conference. I just think that if you're going to expand the playoffs, minimize the regular season, the amount of regular season games. If you're going to keep the playoffs as is, then 4, I think, is enough. What about you?
Well, I think that has merit, too, especially bringing it down to 10 games, because what are the 2 games you're going to eliminate? The teams against lower division teams. And what's the biggest problem with, your strength of schedule is not good enough? Well, if you get rid of the game against a team from the SoCon, if you're from the SEC, guess what? Your strength of schedule just got better. So if you make it 10 teams, you stick it within the conference, especially with these conferences being big enough now, you don't even have to play out of conference schedule, really. Maybe 1 game out of conference, but against a opponent that's going to test you. I think that works. I think the 8-team idea works. I think all 5 conference champions get in. I only think 1 group of 5, though, is enough. I think, similar to what we saw this year with Memphis, gave Penn State a pretty good run for their money. So I think a team at some point, maybe a UCF a couple years ago, could have given a test to a big school. And then instead of wondering, 5 and 6, they should have gotten in. Well, now they are in. Those are at large. And if that also helps a team like a Notre Dame. So that way you don't really discriminate against anybody. You don't say, you're a weaker conference. You're from this conference. We don't really want. Everybody gets involved. Yeah, there's still going to be a question mark over number 8, but it's a whole lot less than going after number 3 and number 4 in that system. So, but part of me also wants to have just the top 2 teams because there's never any controversy with 1 and 2.
Right.
When you think about it. So I can see it both ways, but I think the 8-team playoff is coming. I think it's going to happen. I think at some point the NCAA wants to see more money too at the end of this whole thing. That's
or you can even go 6 teams. Power 5, group of 5.
That could
And
be
run it like
yeah, that could be interesting. Well, speaking of other games to talk about, let's get into some bowl games. And we got a couple to talk about on this TV show today. And we're going to start off with the Armed Forces Bowl. This is going to be an interesting ball game. You've got Southern Miss taking on Tulane. Two teams that have decent seasons this year. Tulane's been much better over the last couple of years. They've grown up into a better program, going back closer to their glory days. But looking ahead, what are the keys to victory for both of these teams? And are there any pro prospects in this game that we should keep an eye on?
Well, growing up in New Orleans, these two teams used to compete in the Metro Conference, the old Metro Conference, and they also used to compete in Conference USA. Now Tulane is in the American, and Southern Miss is still in Conference USA. So this is a great regional rivalry. Hattiesburg is about less than an hour away from New Orleans, so there's a lot going into this game. Good rivalry right here between these two programs. But if you're Southern Miss, it's going to be about stopping and run. Willie Fritz's offense does a great job in pressuring you and being disciplined. It's a form of the option with the ability to throw the football. Tulane's defense is going to be put to challenge because we know Jay Hobson and Southern Miss's offense loves to push the tempo, loves to push the pace. One name to watch in this ball game is Tulane's wide receiver as a pro prospect, Darnell Mooney, outstanding receiver. He's going to the NFLPA game, so keep an eye on him. They're going to try to get him the football early and often. McMillan is a fantastic quarterback. I do think when you look at the fact that they can run the football a little bit better than Southern Miss, that could be a thing. But I think Southern Miss's defense will give Tulane an issue. I like Southern Miss to win this ball game against the Green Wave.
And this is a Southern Miss. This is a program that historically has really good defenses, going back all the way to the 80s. This is a team, obviously, people talk about, oh, Brett Favre went here. No. The bread and butter of Southern Miss is defense. And I kind of agree with you on that point. I think Tulane, though, especially on the uniform front, if they come out in those lime green, I don't even know what to call them, seafoam, I don't know what to call them, seafoam Avengers, I'm not sure what the color is. If they come out in those uniforms, they've won the game by 30 points. But I think Tulane just in general has a better game plan. I think they're a little bit more explosive. I think that's enough for them to get over the hump. I like Tulane close in this game, but I think it's going to be less than 10 points in the deficit on this one. So it's going to be interesting to watch. When we come back after this quick message, we'll have more College Football Tailgate Show presented by Football Game Plan. Stay with us.
Be sure to order your copy of the Go-Go Offense by Coach Brennan Marion on footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense. Coach Marion goes through the ins and outs of his explosive offense, one that's tearing up the college football field and putting a lot of points on the scoreboard. Again, you can order your copy at footballgameplan.com/GoGo Offense.
This is the College Football Tailgate Show presented by Football Game Plan. As the last of the bowl games come into view, some other very important games are still coming for these student athletes, and they are the All-Star games. Now, obviously, the East-West Shrine game, the NFLPA Bowl, and the Senior Bowl get a lot of the headlines. But coming up this weekend is the College Gridiron Showcase. This is one of the lesser-known All-Star games, but still extremely significant, not only for the players, but also for the NFL execs that are watching for that diamond-in-the-rough player that they might get in the later rounds. Emery, you're going to be down there for this event. It's a week-long thing. What can you tell the viewers about what this experience is like for the players and for the scouts?
Well, last year was my first time going to check out this event in person, and I came away thoroughly impressed. There were 150 scouts there from both the NFL and Canadian Football League. So you had all 32 teams represented as well as all 9 CFL teams represented. Now, this is a unique All-Star event because it doesn't include a game. It culminates in a scrimmage on the last day between the two squads that are put together. Also, you look at during the week, these guys are going through a lot of different seminars, how to handle being a professional, how to manage money, what to look for during the draft process, because this is the first All-Star game starting the cycle, so you're going to get a lot of scouts there, and you just want to educate people on the process. So it's an event more so than a game, but the practices are great. You're going to have 3 separate teams. One is the Desperados, one is the Wranglers, one is the Regulators. Your Regulators are in Marshall, so it's 4. Regulators are your specialists, just kickers and punters, and they'll be on the last day. But the Marshalls group is made up of all small college guys from Division 2 and 3 in NAIA. The Wranglers and Desperados are more of a good mix. The top tier FBS, FCS players, Division 2, Division 3 guys that have higher grades by the grading committee of the NFL, as far as like with scouts pool and say, hey, we want these guys. And so it's a great roster put together. A lot of action is going to happen. You're going to see, 7-on-7s, 1-on-1s, 9 versus 7, full team periods, all of those things that you go to All-Star games to watch. You're going to get that throughout the course of the week of practices, which takes place Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and the scrimmage on Wednesday. So there's a bunch of excitement. I'm excited to get down there and check out the action because last year I was thoroughly impressed.
And I think it's good, too, to see the All-Star Games taking the initiative to teach those other life skills outside of just being a professional athlete. But that the budgeting aspect, some kids don't learn that in college, which is, kind of a shame and it should be required. But also, you got, talk about scouts, you got the XFL scouts there this year, too. You
Exactly.
got 8 teams worth of XFL scouts, which will probably be down there in force. So that'll be interesting to watch. But the question now is, obviously the big players, the high draft picks are going to the Shrine Game and the East-West Bowl. But there are also some diamonds in the rough here. And obviously, at smaller schools, you look at the quarterback position. That's where the eyes usually fall. Are there any players in this game that you have an eye on that could end up on some people's draft boards?
Well, you look at the Harlan Hill Trophy winner for this year, which is the Division II equivalent of the Heisman Trophy. Roland Rivers III had a phenomenal season. You talk about winning that trophy. One game in the playoffs against Notre Dame College, he had 8 touchdowns he accounted for, 6 passing, 2 rushing. So he put up phenomenal numbers. He was a former Valdosta State Blazer, transferred up to Slippery Rock, and had those guys on the cusp of getting to the championship game. So he's one that everyone will be wanting to see go out there and perform. 6'3", 230, looks the part, plays the part, is a great player. You also have Division III's Mount Union's quarterback, D'Angelo Fulford, who was phenomenal. He's another player that is flying under the radar that you want to see. And some other names that you may have heard of from the FBS level that may have transferred to other programs. Alex Honingbrook from Wisconsin transferred to Florida State and replaced a guy in DeAndre Francois who transferred from Florida State over to Hampton. So there's a bunch of recognizable names, especially at the quarterback position because we know that's the headliner. So I'm excited to see how those guys get down there and compete. And keep an eye on a local kid from Texas Wesleyan in Donovan Isom. Former Southeastern Louisiana quarterback transferred to Texas Wesleyan. Coach Prudhomme talked highly about him last year when I met him last year at the program. And he said, hey, we got this quarterback that's 6'4", 250, got a rocket arm, can make all the throws. He's another one that's going to be out there competing, going toe-to-toe with these guys from these power conferences.
And a couple of the names to keep an eye on here as well. Jacob Knipp, also a quarterback from Northern Colorado. Big Sky's got a lot of big-name quarterbacks. You got your Dalton Sneeds, Case Cookus, who's gotten a lot of headlines.
Ketteringham from North Dakota.
Ketteringham has been excellent. But Knipp has got a really live arm. He's got a really good game for a program that really doesn't get too much attention. And Christian Roseboom, the linebacker from South Dakota State, will be there as well. I'm surprised that he's going to this game obviously on merit. I think he should be at a higher game. I think the Shrine Game could be a place for him. But he's got an incredible game at linebacker, underrated part of this Jackrabbits defense. He's going to be one to watch, I think, on the defensive side of the ball.
And keep this in mind. This is the first game, so there's still opportunity for guys to get called up.
True.
Because Knipp was actually on the Senior Bowl watch list for a long time, and there's still an opportunity. They haven't announced their final quarterback rosters yet. So how he does here, scouts from other games will be there watching to see who will be getting call-ups and things of that nature. So we've seen guys go from this game to maybe the Tropical Bowl, to maybe the Shrine Game, or even the Senior Bowl. So all is not final, but this is the first one to kick off, and it should be exciting.
And hopefully these All-Star games do a better job at selecting their quarterback teams than the NFL All-100 did, but that's just me. Let's move on to another bowl game that we'll be focusing on this weekend, and that is the LendingTree Bowl. It is your Louisiana Raging Cajuns taking on the Red Hawks of Miami of Ohio. Both of these teams had impressive seasons under the radar. Louisiana earned their first 10-win season in program history. Miami of Ohio getting 8 wins. I want you to take your Cajun hat off for a little bit here and give us some analysis on this game because this could be an evenly matched game. Miami of Ohio brings a pretty good balance on the front side of the ball on offensive and defensive line. But the Raging Cajuns have a lot of big playmakers.
Yeah, and they have a big offensive line. Now, they'll be playing without Robert Hunt, who's going to have surgery, but they still have one of the better right tackles in the game, and Kevin Dotson as well. So he's going to be there 4 deep in the backfield. I love the quarterback, Levi Lewis, and what he has been able to do from the quarterback position. But when you look at what Miami of Ohio doesn't have is great defense. Their offense has been able to move the football, but they're going to run up against the Cajun defense that's active, aggressive, can turn the ball over a little bit, have gotten better in that regard on the back end. But if they can't stop the run, they're going to be in trouble. And that's not what you want to hear when you're facing the number 1 rushing team in college football, or top 5, and they don't run the option. They just run right at you. So I like the Cajuns to win this ball game. I think they'll close out the season with a great win, getting their 11th victory on the year.
I think this Miami defense could be exposed. I mean, when you're not playing great defense in the MAC, when you get against a team with an offense like Louisiana has this year, it's going to be difficult for you. This game, I think, still will be competitive for a half. I think Miami of Ohio will come out game for this one, but I think I agree with you. I think Louisiana will take this one home.
Yeah, the run game is just going to be crazy. If you haven't seen Trey Regas and Raymond Calais and Elijah Mitchell, those 3 tailbacks will be playing on Sunday. Calais is the senior, the lone senior, but those 3 backs in the backfield can do some damage.
When we return, it will be time to preview both Division I football championships. Yes, there are 2, so stay tuned to the College Football Tailgate Show.
Man, it's that old thing, perseverance, consistency, hard work. My goal is to put the same work into, my businesses, my family that I put into football, and I've been running with that mantra since I got married back in '97, that if I'm going to have a successful marriage, I got to, the same hard work and same consistency and discipline I had on the football field, I got to put in my marriage and with my kids and with my businesses and all that. So it teaches you a lot, man. How to deal with your fellow man and not look at his color, but look at what he can do for the overall good of what you're trying to accomplish. So sports to me in general is just an incredible deal when you talk about football specifically because of the closeness of guys. I just believe it's an amazing sport.
Welcome back to the Football Game Plan College Football Tailgate Show. We are less than 10 days away from championship weekend in Division I college football, and we have 2 titanic matchups to talk about, and we start with the FCS National Championship. The 24-team field has been whittled down to 2 heavyweights. The number 1 seed, North Dakota State Bison, looking for their 8th national title against the number 2 seed, James Madison Dukes. This game will be in Frisco, Texas. Emory, this was the matchup we expected since week 0. Strength versus strength at every single position. Let's talk about what this JMU defense is going to have to do to slow down the Jerry Rice Award winner, potentially the Walter Payton Award winner in Trey Lance and this North Dakota State offense.
I think what they have to do is keep him confined within that tackle-to-tackle box. We know Lance is a tremendous rusher. They're leading rusher on the football team, but he's also a great passer. You want to take one of those elements away, and I think you want to take the run away because the run usually equals time of possession, usually equals a defense getting worn down. So that's why you always want to take away the run first and make him a one-dimensional player. And that's not saying his one dimension isn't good, but it's about stopping the run. If you can stop the run for North Dakota State, keep him contained within the tackle box, make him throw the football, make them rely on their tailbacks more so than Lance's ability to run, it gives you a chance defensively. And I think that's the mindset they're going to have to go in and have. Now, they've done a great job in doing that all season long. So like you talked about, strength versus strength, their strength matches up well with the strength of North Dakota State, but they have to make sure they keep Trey Lance tackle to tackle, keep him playing a one-dimensional game.
The biggest thing the JMU does have is explosive difference makers on the edges, especially at defensive end. You got Daka there. You've got players all over the Holloway as well. It comes off the outside from the linebacker position, so it'll be interesting with them. But the secondary will be tested too against this North Dakota State team. They've got some track stars, legitimate track stars.
Legit track stars.
At the wide receiver position. What about North Dakota State? Because they don't exactly have the explosive playmakers on defense, but they are solid defensively all the way around, very well disciplined. This is a JMU team that's got some speed on their own, but they don't really have an explosive player at quarterback. Danucci is a good runner, but not a great runner like Lance is. What does JMU have to do on offense to beat the Bison, and what does North Dakota State have to look for to slow down this JMU offense?
Well, you could beat teams with discipline and execution, and that's North Dakota State's motto. That's what they've done since Craig Bowles, since Chris Kleiman, and now with their new head coach. So they've done a great job historically being disciplined and executing at a high level. And I think in this game against JMU is going to have to do something outside of what they normally have done. I think the passing game is going to have to be the way they're going to have success. It's going to be tough to run the football against North Dakota State. That's a given. So can Ben Danucci win with his arm? That's going to be the biggest question in this game. And if you're North Dakota State, I think you have to make sure Danucci doesn't become a dual threat. He's quietly killed teams with his ability to run. Make him throw the football, make him beat pressure. I think that's one area where they can affect the pocket or affect this ball game is by getting in the pocket, causing duress, making him make plays uncomfortably in the passing game. And I think that's an area where North Dakota State can have an advantage, I think, against James Madison. I think their defense, because of how they can cover on the back end, I trust their secondary. I think both secondaries in this game are really good, but I like North Dakota State's secondary matched up against those receivers of James Madison. Now, we know they love to run east and west and get receivers involved in the run game, but I think playing that run game first and allowing your back end to do things well, let's say whether it's zone coverage or man, if you trust your guys in man, making DiNucci beat you throwing the football is going to be key.
It's going to be huge, too. We got two teams with stables of backs from in the backfield from 3 or 4 deep on both sides. Two very different stories at quarterback. Trey Lance, they all can do it. Freshman, might be the next quarterback drafted from North Dakota State to go to the NFL. DiNucci, the transfer from Pitt, going into his final year. How do you see this ball game going? Because the front sevens for both teams on defense are solid as well. This is so even across the board. What's your take?
Yeah, all things being equal, this is an evenly matched game, but I do like North Dakota State to win. I would take Trey Lance over Ben DiNucci. I think Lance has proven when you're young, you don't know things, and that could be a great thing. And I think because of that and how he plays and how much he has meant to this offense, they'll win. I think it'll be a close game, but I do like North Dakota State to win.
I agree. I think North Dakota State by a field goal. I have some strange inkling that the kickers, who are both very consistent as well in this game, might be the deciding factor, but I think North Dakota State wins potentially at the last second. I think it's going to be a very close ball game. And that brings us now to the finale of the college football season, the College Football Playoff National Championship. The number 1 seed, LSU, will have the home field advantage in the Superdome as they host the number 3 Clemson Tigers. But Clemson, who was certainly questioned about how good they were going into this year's semifinal against Ohio State, passed that test with flying colors. But what do Clemson and Dabo Swinney now have to do to bring home back-to-back championships?
Lean on their ground game. I think if you can keep Joe Burrow and that offense off the field, it's a great thing. Now, Clemson does have the athletes to compete toe-to-toe on a perimeter with LSU, like Ohio State has, but I think Clemson provides a little different element with their quarterback healthy and being able to run. That's one thing that Justin Fields couldn't do because he still was nursing that knee injury, so he wasn't able to move a little bit. Lawrence, we saw, can move. He can throw the football solid, and also they have the running game and Travis Etienne, who is explosive. He's always one play away from going the distance. So I think offensively, playing a slow-paced, balanced game keeps your offense on the field, keeps their offense off the field, and defensively, it allows you to be fresh, be aggressive, get creative in your game plans, and slow them down. So I think offensively will have to be their best defense for Clemson.
And what about LSU? Obviously, this team has blown people away with their passing offense. Joe Burrow, now a consensus top 5 pick, if not the number 1 overall in this year's 2020 NFL Draft. But the question now is, what can he do to put this team away and prove his dominance against this Clemson defense?
Well, continue to play Burrow's game, because if you notice that Ohio State matchup, those receivers were having their way with the secondary of Clemson. And we know LSU's receivers, they go 4 deep, 3 of which are legit number 1s. And they also have a receiving tight end, and they also have a receiving tailback in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who will be out there in this matchup. So not only do they have a back that can catch the football, everyone else can catch the football. I think LSU has too much offensive talent. They will win this ball game. I like the Tigers of LSU to get the win.
See, I agree with you completely. I think Clemson, they got a little bit of help, a little bit of momentum shift perhaps from some outside factors against Ohio State. They certainly proved that they are a top 3 team in the country. I think LSU is a different weight class. I think the Tigers, well, let me say this, the Bayou Bengals should get this win, I think, relatively handily. I think they bring home a national championship to Baton Rouge. That'll do it for the College Football Tailgate Show. Don't forget to go to footballgameplan.com and youtube.com/footballgameplan for all of our college football coverage. For Emery Hunt, I'm David Hassagen. Enjoy all of the college football action this week, and thanks for watching.